Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina, and we are your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Women. We are deep divers and avid students of life, and powerful facilitators for healing. In real life, I'm an intuitive healer who loves to blend massage therapy with energy work to provide customized holistic services for my clients.
And I'm a life coach specializing in women and parent empowerment. And I'm also a sound healer. And we both love to incorporate crystals and essential oils, angelic Reiki, oracle decks, love tuning forks, whatever tool or toy you can imagine. And of course, intuitive guidance into our work.
We were
Right.
inspired to create this podcast after pondering this question. What would a world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Usually, we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody is losing. Depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking, or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. Those are the only two options from that perspective, and neither of those options make us feel very good. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from our first impressions. So we invite you, the listener, to go beyond the first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner if we're willing to look. Today, we're so happy to welcome Diana to the program. Diana, go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Hi, folks. My name is Diana Phillips. Um, I am the creator of a system called Soul 13, is an energy healing system that's been gifted to me. And I just want to thank Christina and Martina for having me. This is just a beautiful show, and I love what you're trying to do and show the diversity of so many different ways that women are women in their lives and what that looks like. Um, and folks who are leaders and healers and trying to change the world. So thank you. It's really gorgeous what you guys are doing.
Right back at you. We are so happy to have you and hear more about the healing that you're bringing to the planet. So, any more you want to tell us about who you are in the world?
Sure. So I play many roles and I have a few different businesses. I'm a mom to two teenage girls, and um, I also have a goat farm. My husband and I have a goat farm, and we put on baby goat yoga and baby goat cuddling experiences. And I live just west of Boston in a town called Holliston, Massachusetts. And I also have a business, and that just sort of developed not from something that was planned. Um, I have been gifted a healing system that I've named Soul 13. And the business started, or the system started in 2021. I went with my two daughters to Costa Rica for the first time, and it was sort of the tail end of COVID. And I sort of thought I was going on vacation. And little did I know that I began a relationship with the Arenal Volcano in La Fortuna, who has started to work with my energy system and gave me just this really beautiful healing system. Do you want I could tell the story now, how that all unfolded, or
Sure.
so um in the town of La Fortuna, there's this beautiful volcano, and around the volcano, so I think in 1968, the volcano erupted. It had been a farming village, and like many people died, people lost houses, and but also the geography was really changed. That there was hot springs that popped up all over the place, and new streams, new rivers, new hills. And so it's become this tourist destination for um, sort of doing outdoorsy adventure sports. So people could zip line, and also people come to soak in the hot springs. So this was one of our destinations. And one day when I was in the hot springs and I was a little bored, I had offered a healing to the volcano. I was just like, this is I was just in such awe because I was really blissed out. The energy is just really beautiful. The foliage is beautiful. You're hearing like birds and monkeys in the background. And so just in gratitude, I said, "Would you like a healing?" I've been someone who studied energy healing for a couple of decades and played with it for many, many years. And she said, sure, yes, kind of in surprise. And she showed me some grief that I met and just worked on it. Took a really long time to release it. And I've never worked on a rock before. And when I released it, in gratitude, she took me to a place in the volcano to work on issues, as far as I could tell. And it was really so I would imagine, whoever I was having difficulty with, us both in the space in the volcano and like I could feel there was a softening in in the relationships, or say me and food or me and money, like whatever things in my life I felt I struggled with. And I played with it some, went home, played with it a little more, but didn't really think a whole lot about it. Came back in 2023 again, 2 years later, was, and my energy system had really started changing and rapidly evolving. And I hadn't realized until I got back 2 years later that, oh, this was the volcano working with me. And when I meditated, I found that the volcano was in my heart space. Um, and I was leading non-psychedelic plant spirit healings that were, I channel various medicinal plants, and that she was coming through for that and giving activations, just like really beautiful gifts. And so I decided in the fall of 2023, I needed to go back without my family and that she had more gifts for me. And when I went back, I basically went, I got there on a Friday night and I was leaving on a Tuesday morning. I stayed in this little cabin across from the volcano, this little Airbnb. And Friday night, she's like, go to bed because when you wake up, I'm going to take you through the 13 gateways of the soul. I was like, okay. So it was 3 super intense days, lots of rewriting of soul contracts. And what she showed me, I've made this little diagram and it's on my website. But the soul lives in our heart space, and gateways 1 through 5 hold old unprocessed feelings, mostly issues from past lives, some from this lifetime, and our initial separation, the grief from our initial separation to become individualized as a soul is also held there. So numbness, a lot of numbness. And then starting at gateway 6, and each gateway has a color and an energy frequency. Gateway 6 was the beginning of the inner divine temple. So I was like shown this image of like 1,000 Mayan steps. And each gateway was a deeper level into awakening. Like for me to get each activation initiation, I had to, it was like a koan. It was like, I am that and that I am. That I think that was gateway number 7. Which really means I am you and you are me. And at any moment, what I say is that we have duality arising at any moment, but we also have oneness arising at any moment. And this work through the gateways helps us bridge into the oneness that's always present and sort of, the 13th gateway in us is where God lives, where the divine lives within us. And beyond that, beyond the 13th gateway is sort of the all that is consciousness. So I was like, okay. And part of the agreement of this, like, again, not expected, as so much in life, when we plan things, when we think, okay, I'm going to do this, like just like this morning, I was like, I'm going to work on this project this morning. But instead, as I was telling you before, I took my daughter to urgent care because she had poison ivy in her mouth and in her throat. Um, anyway, so where was I at? So many of our gifts, as we all know, is just the unexpected. And this was not I was not looking to channel a volcano or create an energy healing system from it, but it's been a gift. And so that's really the story.
And it's just such a powerful story, that you trusted your intuition and were called to Costa Rica in the first place, and you thought it was just a vacation with your daughters, but then had the thought that, oh, I should offer a healing to the volcano, and that's what started it all off. But I'd say that there was a deeper intuition that had called you there in the first place. Like, and probably there's probably little pieces like that that if you look back, you could see everything that was pulling you there in the first place.
Yeah, no, I mean, what was interesting is I didn't know when I got home that I had been changed so deeply. I just was like, oh, I'm playing with energy. Now I'm like a few months, once I got later after getting home, I was like toning angels. And now I'm like, all right, now I'm doing this. Or again,
Mm,
I was just riding what was arising, if that makes sense.
yes. Yeah, not trying to understand it, just being with it.
Hmm.
It's like
Mm,
embracing your next level of weird, I call it, right? It's like whatever that is, whatever the next level of weird is. Or it's like, okay, I'm channeling volcano. Okay. Yeah, beautiful.
mm.
So, what is your superpower? What do you consider your superpower?
So I have a few. So I'm like, I love people and I have a deep respect for whoever shows up. So like if I meet someone at a gas station and I'm talking to them, I will try to, there's this part of me that's like, so what's their operating system? Like what's driving, whether it's their personality or their perspective. Um, so I have like this amazing curiosity, I would say, just this like curiosity, curiosity, curiosity. Um, and I guess my another superpower is that if someone comes to me, if I'm in a session or even working on myself, I'm like, so what's the key issue? What's the emotion right now? And then what's behind that? So what's always, we're not, because as humans, like emotions are always arising. We're just this like glob of constant emotions most of the time. We're just like we're always riding this emotion roller coaster at times, but we have thoughts that are always arising. But it's always so when we're struggling with something, it's like, well, what's deeper? What's deeper? So, and for some reason, and I don't know how this came in, I can just I could feel what the person's issue is and then feel have a sense where it came from.
Mhm.
What
But that's, yeah, go ahead, Martina.
came for me, like in just listening to you is one, and I'm not quite sure whether it is openness, like there's a willingness and openness that is part of your superpower.
Hmm.
There's an allowing to receive.
Hmm.
It's like when you were talking before, that's what I got as part of your superpowers.
Mm.
You agree with that?
Sure. I mean, I just think of this, I just have this intense curiosity. Like, how did someone come to this belief system? And as I've gotten older, I'm less like, I don't care if someone votes for, if someone loves Trump, if someone loves Kamala, like, none of it matters, if that makes sense. It's just like, so what's underneath that made you feel that way? That when I'm more, I try not to go into politics, but just like what's driving like
right? What need is being fed by that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm. Like, is it safety or security or what does that make you feel to have that person as your representative, right? Like, yeah.
What is your worldview, or what are your beliefs about
Mhm.
yourself and the world? I think that I totally get that. It's like, I wonder.
And I think like all of us are so unaware. We have so many operating beliefs in the background, right? Like we have our culture, we have our family, we have our country, we like wherever we were raised in, we have our ancestors, like we have so many beliefs, um, being female, male, like whatever is what we're raised as, that is completely unaware most of the time that that's part of our operating system.
Mm. Yeah. So Diana, if we really knew you, what would we know about you?
What would you know? I have a bit of a dark sense of humor. I love to laugh. I am a combination of introverted and extroverted. I love being around people and I absolutely love nature and get filled by being in the woods and love animals, love people, but also, need my space at times. I don't know if I'm like more extroverted or more introverted. I have no idea.
I can totally relate to that. I don't know either. Like, I crave my people at times, but I really crave my sanctuary too. So I think I am both, and it just depends on where the balance is at in any moment of what I need. When I spend too much time by myself, then I crave, and then it flows the other way. So yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I also like the beauty of relationships is that they will show you your shadows,
Hmm.
right? They'll show you if you let them instead, if you're, when you have challenges in a relationship with any relationship always arises eventually, or any, not like your mailman, but like, friendships, partners, lovers, family. Um, if you allow that, they'll be I mean, you guys know this, it will be your teacher. But it's also hard to sort of work through the layers and the muck. And so it's beautiful as an opportunity. Um, and I will say, like, and maybe you guys can identify with this, one of the challenges of being intuitive or being curious is that I often want to go deeper than other people are ready. And I'm 52 and I'm still learning, like, okay, that is a sacred cow that does not want to be touched in this person. And I have to, even though it's so obvious to me, in respect of that person and what they're available for, I have to, go sideways around it. Um, and that's sort of the like being magical versus, what I joke is calling the muggles. Like to me, I'm like, well, isn't that obvious? And I've learned so, the hard way so many times. I'm like, oh, that wasn't obvious. But I assumed you knew about yourself. You had no idea, or so that's certainly a challenge that has but I'm sure both of you have had that experience.
Well, I do shadow work, right? I trained with Debbie Ford, and it is all of that, right? We cannot see ourselves unless, like, we see ourselves reflected in other people. So whatever gets triggered in us when we see them, that's usually ours. It's not theirs, right? But it takes some insight and willingness and openness and curiosity and whatever else you want to call it or to add to it to really look rather than point the finger, right? Because it's taking responsibility
Hmm.
is more challenging than blaming. Right? Blaming is so easy, right? And we all have done it, right? And we all have our blind spots. We all do in our own way, right? We do. So yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That work is, priceless. And I remember, like there's that saying, ignorance is bliss. And I'm like, not really, because ignorance leaves you like discontent and like uneasy. But if you're willing to dive in and you come out on the other side and are free,
Mm-hmm.
that is more of bliss than the
Mm-hmm.
ignorance, right? So
Yeah, and I do think there are people who are in lifetimes that they're not like their lifetime isn't about going deep, right? Their lifetime is about being more surface level. And that, at least at the moment, right? And that's fine too. So some of us, like those of us on the healing spiritual path, we're always wanting to go deep. We're always lo like we love to excavate, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, it can be like when I learn about something new and start like reading books and get into a new subject, like I want to share it with everybody because I want everyone to come along on the ride with me, right? Like I don't want to be up leveling and leave people behind, but not everyone wants to read it or participate or even hear about it, right? So I have to like know like what's the safe space to share and when to shut up, right? Um, and it's funny because my boyfriend, he usually does not want to hear it. But then every so often, maybe like months later, I will see a book appear at his place and it's something I was talking about. And so I've learned I just have to just put it out there and just let him know about it and leave it at that. And then he's gonna do what he's gonna do, or you know,
You're planting seeds.
planting seeds. I don't have to shove it down his throat.
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
maybe their job this time around is not to heal. Maybe their job this time around is to teach us,
Mm-hmm.
to have us look at ourselves, right? And can we bless them for that, right? And I mean, particularly in the situation we're in, right? Not even, I'm like those damn Republicans, those damn Democrats, they're all damned, right? In a way, rather than wow, okay, if they're here to teach me, what is it that I need to learn?
Hmm.
I can be free, right? And in the process, I can set them free because I'm not pointing the finger at them anymore, right? I'm taking care of me. So,
And my sense is at this point in time, like we are all being driven so much into duality and like we're collectively and it's collectively really hard for everyone, whether you're conscious of it or not, but it is hard, it is stressful. Um, you know, when did I start feeling it? For sure in the fall, just this and I do these monthly group healings and that's really been a theme so many months where we just like the collective energy has been really hard that is taking us into duality. And I'm there will be a possibility, and sometimes in such duality, the only option to get out will be to see each other differently. And maybe that will happen, maybe that won't. But I feel like that's the opportunity that we have that we're being asked for. Um, I don't know if you guys feel that or sense that in a different way or
for me, it's a letting go of what I believe is the truth,
Mhm.
right? Because that's only my point of view. That's only one possible point of view, right? And I don't know what motivates you.
Mhm.
I just go from the assumption that if you would be like me, you would not react in this way. You would react in a different way, rather than really, as you said, being curious and following it up with questions. Wow, what motivated you? What had you do what you did? Why did you choose this path rather than another path, right? Essentially, it is part of what you're saying, right? It's like we like that openness that is required so we can find each other again, the letting go of what I already know, what I believe to know to be true about you, right?
Mhm.
so I can discover something different,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That was very deep. So let's just switch to a different topic. So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it doesn't have to be necessarily romantic love, but it can be.
So, so when I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian, and my parents discouraged that, um, which is, bad parenting, of course. And in 2008, when I had my first daughter, I read a book by Barbara Kingsolver about, and she's a novelist, but this was this nonfiction book about living on the land, living for a year. I think it was like animal, plant, miracle. I have to look it up, but it's about her and her family living on the land. And I was so inspired by that book. I was like, I didn't know you could do that and not be a farmer. Like, I thought, only people from Iowa were farmers, or like, people who grew up in a farming family and that was their tradition. I had no idea that anyone could be a farmer. And so my husband read the book and we just had this little fantasy of having a farm and fell in love with goats and having animals, which I'm like, that was kind of crazy. So in 2011, we bought our place. We moved in 2012 and got goats and chickens. I think we started with sheep. Didn't love having sheep. And it was a love. It's all been love. I mean, it's challenging. It's an interesting thing, because the contrast, there's a part that's so hard that we're like always have to do either morning or evening. One of us or both of us are doing farm chores. So there's sort of where you feel you're always, or if you want to go away, you have to work really hard to find people to, who's going to properly take care of your farm. What if somebody gets sick? And then on the other side, there is just this portal of love from these goats that every night I cuddle with them and I talk to them and I have a mini donkey and she wants to be petted and hugged and her and I have an interesting relationship. So it's been an interesting journey of opening to this love. And in the winter in January I do not want to do farm chores at night. I'm like, but then once I put all my clothes on and I'm all bundled up, then it's beautiful. And there's the resistance that I still have to, the animals still need to be cared for, but then I'm so thankful. I'm like, oh, this is amazing, I get to be out here. And I wouldn't see the stars, I would be so it's just too cold to see the stars, and I wouldn't slow down and connect with the earth and the land. So that's my love. That's one of my many love journeys.
Beautiful one. I think our relationships with our pets is where we really channel the greatest love. It's just because it's so unconditional and it's just so beautiful. My boyfriend and I had a dog that passed last summer, but she was a feral husky that we found that we had for 10 years, and she dominated our life the entire 10 years, but she brought so much to it too. And the interesting part for me, the takeaway was it was like we had to rescue an anxious dog for us to work on our own anxiety.
Hmm.
Because if we didn't get our anxiety levels down, she was not going to get hers down either. She had terrible
Wow.
separation anxiety, and so the more we got our shit together, the more she did, and it was just a beautiful progression to watch the three of us just like finally find safety and security together, right? Just incredible.
That
So
is
yeah.
cool.
And I could relate to the walks too, because this was a husky who loved walking in the rain, in the cold, or the snow, right? it was raining, pouring rain, she wanted to go on longer walks. And you just had to surrender to it and put your Audible books in and be like, all right, got my jacket on, my boots, and we're going for a walk in the rain because that's what's going to make her happy today. And I always thought about that, that was the point of the walk, was making her happy, not me happy. So whatever I could do to enjoy it along with her was great. But there was one day, it was towards the end of her life, when the gentleman in the park where I walk in the morning came up to me and he's like, I wanted to just acknowledge you for how you walk your dog. And I'm like, what is this man talking about? And he's like, I watch a lot of people walk their dogs in the morning, but you have never rushed your dog. You let her sniff whatever she wants to sniff, and you just give her the space to just enjoy her walk. He's like, I've never watched anyone with their dog in the morning like you and this dog. And I was like, oh, that made me so happy. And so, yes, even apartment living, you can still bond with pets, but man, farm living is a whole nother level.
That is beautiful.
And what you were sharing, like, sorry, you were sharing is like there's so many levels, right? It's like
So many levels.
the love for the animals, right? And the love for your dream, and the love for yourself, and the love for your family, right? Because it's all intertwined together, which is really, really beautiful. And just in that one story, right? It's like,
Hmm.
how do I want to live my life, right? And just that in itself is a huge act of love. So
Mhm.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's just like so exciting.
Hmm. All right, so let's see. I know you told us about, your journey, how you became, or how your process of your current energy system worked. But what really made you who you are today? Like, what was the biggest lesson, or what took the most courage? Because clearly you were a healer before you went to the volcano. So, like, what put you on that path?
So, I what did put me in that path? So when I was 29, which astrologically is your Saturn return, and I like know nothing about, I know like two things about astrology, but I do know that's like every 29 years we have these big changes. And until that time, I was very like I thought everything was chance. I I wasn't closed down to the spiritual, like a belief that there was something beyond us. It just didn't make sense to me. And at the time, my sense, well, how could I had a very immature sense of who God was. Like God, how could you have a God with people suffering the way they do and the inequality of suffering in the world? Um, so I was like, I don't really know if I believe in this God thing or not. And when I w- so when I was 29, I was in my 20s, I kept getting in car accidents. I like hit cars going to me on my bike. And it was like clearly I could look back and now say like, oh, I wasn't on the right path. And I had my last car accident when I was 29, and I was like, it was like the crack in the foundation. I was like, huh, this keeps happening. I wonder why. Because I've had a lot of like I'd gotten in a lot of car accidents. My body got kind of banged up and it was in pain. And during that time, like maybe a week or two after that last car accident at 29, I had a dream, and there was a woman in my community who had a daughter and a granddaughter. And the dream was all about keeping her daughter and her granddaughter safe, and she was worried about them and worried about them dying. And then I woke up and I was like, that's strange that I dreamt about Judy and her family. And then, like an hour later, I get a call saying, hey, Judy's granddaughter died in a car accident and her daughter's like on death's door. And like that shattered me on like, I was like, wait, I had this like very rigid belief system. And how I was like, how did they come to me? And like, how did I get that information? Because I wasn't close with the daughter or the granddaughter, but like, and it just shattered the foundation. It began to. I mean, it's took years to sort of unravel that. Um, at least a few years, my body was in a lot of pain again, and I got Rolf. Rolfing is a type of body therapy. So this was 2002. I got Rolfed. I was living in Minneapolis at the time, and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm going to go to Rolfing school. I was again
Hmm.
like, I it's funny because I didn't really, I mean, obviously there's something working through me. I didn't know. It was just sort of a whim. I was like, I'll try this. Something's not working in my life. I got to do something different. Um, and that just totally broke open how I thought healing happened, which was I had like a previously very rigid idea of what healing was, and it just opened up so much possibility. So I have been a certified, now I'm an advanced rolfer for many, many years since 2004. Um, and I've just had, probably a few thousand people come to me over the years and gotten to learn their story and hold a container and hold space. And, during early in my career, I did lots of energy workshops. And then it's been many, many, maybe a decade since I've studied anyone else's system and kind of got guided uh, that wasn't necessarily my path. Or I should say, what I have found that not all teachers, but most teachers kind of, my experience was that they want you to, there's a certain, at least the ones I chose, which like clearly these were the lessons I needed to have. I'm not saying all energy healers do this, all energy healing teachers do this, and I do not do this when I teach workshops, but the agreement was on some level I was giving up my power to them, and they knew everything, and they held the cards. And I realized maybe 10 years ago that that wasn't my truth, and I needed to find whatever my path was. And though I didn't know what that was, and like energetically that I had my own skills, I didn't really know how that would unfold. Um, and nor was I particularly looking for more skills, if that makes sense. So that's, just this very different perspective of what healing was, and um, that brought me into sort of more alternative healing, I guess, modalities.
Yeah, I think I can relate to your story because it was physical pain in my body and autoimmune issues that started me on my alternative healing journey. So seeing acupuncturists and applied kinesiologists and anything other than being put on more steroids and craziness. But then I too was in a number of car accidents and wound up in a chiropractor's office, and that all brought me on my quest of then at 29 leaving bookkeeping and accounting and switching to massage therapy. So, and it's always been like I signed up for 4 years of Feldenkrais training just at the like I had no idea, I'd never even experienced it, and I was like, yeah, I'll spend $16,000 and learn that new modality. So I can relate to trusting the intuition, being like, that's what's next, I'm doing that, great. But then at some point being like, ooh, wait, what? You think yours is the modality, the only one that could fix someone? No, I don't believe that. And then I would take the next class and they'd be like, oh, yes, this is the best. And no, 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 no. I can't listen to you when you say that stuff. And so I can relate to that kind of taking all the stuff I've learned. And I don't think that they're teaching me anything new. I just think the classes are waking up what's already inside of me as a healer. And I'm just relearning stuff that I've learned in past lifetimes and then figuring out what to do with it, blending with all of the other modalities I've learned over a lifetime and blending it all together to do whatever I feel like I need to do with it. So I can relate to your journey.
That's
Yeah,
that's beautiful. I like that it's waking up what is already present.
yeah. That's how I have felt that way from from a very young age, and then it was a healer that Martina and I worked with probably about 25 years ago. And it was my first session with her. I asked her, I'm like, do I always study something new because I don't trust myself, or because I don't really have the knowledge in me? And she said, no, it's to wake up these abilities that you've always had and for you to meet the people you need to meet in this lifetime.
Hmm, nice.
And so I've always loved that. Yeah.
I also believe that in the end, there is no right way. There's
Hmm.
always your way, right? It's like my son has muscular dystrophy, and I remember talking to someone who said, "Well, you need to, like, he needs to take homeopathy." I'm like, it just doesn't feel right, right?
Hmm.
It just doesn't feel right. And when we're not feeling great, everybody has an opinion, right? Because we want to contribute, so everybody has an opinion, rather than, okay, so this is what I have to offer. If you're interested, let me know. That's it, right? Because it is, and for us, like all that we've learned, right? It's like it's putting it together.
Hmm.
It's all, I'm going to say, percolating within us to then create or become what it's supposed to be out there, right? If we're unique and special, which we are, right?
Hmm.
There's only one of us and only one person who can do the work we've been sent here to do.
Hmm.
So us putting all of it together to just present it to the world is actually the work. So
I have thought as like one of my issues of the years that I've worked on is that like on some level I hate watching suffering, I hate witnessing suffering. It's hard. You don't want to witness it in ourselves. We don't want, obviously our shadow stuff is we don't want to witness it in ourselves and we don't want to witness it in the people we love. And with some of my becoming a healer because I wanted to fix people because I had a difficulty of just holding a container for suffering. Um, I've had to just as an adult, because when you have a friend or a loved one who's like, I have this issue, and that you might have some ideas of what could help them, but if they're not ready for that, or you still have to just you're there to hold their container, not necessarily to fix their container. Um, anyway, it's just an interesting lesson as a healer. I don't know if you guys feel that.
It's a big one, especially as a body worker, because they want you to physically work on them all the time. Like my boyfriend will ask after I come home from 5 massages in a row at work, he'll be like, "Could you work on?" And no, I can't. I can give you some balls and I can tell you what to do with them. And then he's always like, "Oh no, that's not the same." And I'm like, "It's actually better because I can teach you how to take care of yourself.
That's good.
You don't need me." But it's never the answer he wants at the moment.
well, and I remember the healer that Christina was talking about. She said we try to fix people because we think we're broken.
Hmm.
So it's not even over there, right? It's within me. It's my lack of trust in myself that has me think that, it's again looking on the outside what needs to be done rather than going inside and looking what needs to be done.
Hmm.
So last question. If you had a magic wand and you could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
I think curiosity. I think curiosity and the inkling or belief that things could actually change, that they are not, whatever, your son will always have muscular dystrophy. And I'm not saying that can change. Um, but a lot of people become identified. We all do in all these in all our ways. And it's actually one of the ways when I do my healing, I always look for where the person's identified with the issue. But we become identified with like this is my truth, whether it's like I'm depressed or I'm anxious or I'm this, I'm that, or blah blah. Like we all have these serious identifications. And it was just, I love when people have a sense that they're beyond these identifications, that there's something that they're that yes, they can make change.
I think that's brilliant because it's, like we have all these labels. I cannot do this because, right? Because somebody told me that, right? And I'm like, maybe not. Maybe
Mhm.
not. I remember when somebody told me I have environmental depression. And for me, it was so fascinating because it was a deep dive into, wow, what does that even mean? And wow, okay, so that's, but not as an, okay, I have this is it.
Mm.
And it is the choice that we make in that point. And I find that sometimes it's not useful to label people because it just really limits.
Right. And like one of my teachings is like, so my being has experienced this trauma or this
Mm,
thing, but not that I am that trauma,
Mhm.
yeah.
right? And it's
Yes.
hard to say, like, well, my being, it's hard to separate yourself from that identification because it seems so real. It seems, well, this happened to me. But as we all like, the me is a bit of an illusion, right? And I'm always like, well, what's beyond the me? What's beyond the I? That's a whole other conversation about awakening, but
But yeah, it's like, are you the disease or do you have the disease, right?
right.
And often it becomes so all-consuming that we become the disease rather than saying, okay, so there's a bag, I'm holding this one is coming with me, but it's not the totality of who I am, right?
Mm.
And sometimes it's so challenging to separate those two, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and because people, I mean, and I get it, because say you have this disease or you have autoimmune something or like you have some chronic condition that you might look normal on the outside, but inside you're really struggling. People don't believe you. So you want to like learn everything and you want to be taken seriously, right? It's challenging. Um, and people to hold a container for you in the ways that need to be held. So I get it, right? Why we do it,
In line, right? It's like
right?
we latch onto it. And like the holding of the container is like, it's not the truth. It's just one possible view of the world right now, right? That can change. But we latch onto it, right? It's like it becomes the truth rather than one possibility of what's out there, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful,
absolutely.
beautiful.
Mm. So here's a time to brag about your business, Diana. Tell our listeners what you offer and how they can reach you.
Sure. Um, so I offer in-person weekend-long workshops. I offer if you want to learn about me, I offer these, learn about what the energy feels like. I have these free monthly group healings that happen over Zoom. I offer one-on-one sessions in person over Zoom. My website is soul13.net.
Mm, mm,
It's
mm,
based on the 13 gateways, right?
Yep.
That's
mm. And then how often do you teach that course?
I think I have the next one set for October.
See, so
So,
if you're
and
interested,
in the
check
Boston
it out.
area.
Yay. So lots of offerings, lots of ways you can.
and then you also have the goat yoga, right? You said.
I do, and that is seasonal, so that will be over by July or August again in the Boston area.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. What's the best way for people to find you? Through your website or
Yeah, my website again is soul13.net. My goat website is happygoatsfarm.com.
cool. Awesome. Like, yay. Unfortunately, I live a little far, but
Yeah.
I would love to check that out. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for deep diving with us because we love to deep dive. And for all of you out there, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you love this, please leave us a review. Please share. And please always remember that you are extraordinary and you rock. Until next time. Have a fabulous day.
Bye for now. Diana, you get to end it.
Thank you. Thank you for holding this space, Martina and Christina. And thank you to everyone who listens and shows up for themselves.